Welcome to the Science Plus Love Equals Cure podcast, the STXBP1 10-minute monthly update. This is podcast number 27. I'm Charlene Sun-Rigby, president and co-founder of the STXBP1 Foundation. I'm also mom to SDXer Juno and her big brother Luca. Okay, today's topics. Report out from the Synapse Symposium 2025, and then quick updates, including one on the ESCO Natural History Study. All right, first topic. I was invited to the Synapse Symposium 2025 that was held in late November, so right before Thanksgiving. And this symposium celebrated 40 years of research on the synapse. So the synapse is the place where neurons communicate with each other. And the synapse is the body's machinery that enables one neuron to transmit neurotransmitter to the next neuron. And you can think of neurotransmitter like a letter that is being sent from one neuron to the next. And that neurotransmitter is enclosed in something called a vesicle, which you can think of as the envelope holding that letter. Neurotransmitter is a complex sounding word, but there are, some examples that you've probably heard of, like dopamine and serotonin. This is a really critical part of how the brain works, and it was discovered by a group of scientists who included Thomas Sudoff. Tom Sudoff received a Nobel Prize in 2013 for his groundbreaking work on the synapse, and he shared this Nobel with two other scientists, James Rothman and Randy Schekman. And they, together, although they had, different aspects of research in this area, they all had pioneering work regarding synapse research. I was really delighted because I had the honor of meeting Tom Sudoff during this Synapse Symposium conference at a breakfast that was organized by one of his former students, who is very well known in the STXBP1 community, Matthias Verhaeghe, from the VU Amsterdam and also from ESCO. So it was at the conference, it was very cool to be sitting in a room with over 150 researchers who all are studying synapse function and different genes involved in synapses. And a number of those researchers, beyond Matthias, had been in Tom's lab during their training. So let's talk a little bit more about the synapse. Surprisingly, there are over 1,000 different proteins involved in the synapse. So STXBP1 is only one of those proteins. Jim Goss was there also with me, our scientific director. And since we spend so much time focused on just STXBP1, it was really informative to be looking more broadly across the synapse and synaptic function. So one example of how other genes in the synapse can impact STXBP1 is syntaxin-1. Syntaxin is a different protein that works with STXBP1 in a part of the synapse called the snare complex. This snare complex pushes the vesicle, which remember is our envelope, and that contains the neurotransmitter, which is our letter, and pushes that vesicle and neurotransmitter out of the neuron. STXBP1 and syntaxin seem to regulate each other, so they maintain a one-to-one balance. STXBP1 is considered a haploinsufficiency disorder, which means that our kids are not making enough STXBP1. So we need to increase the amount of STXBP1 protein that is present. Given this balance between STXBP1 and syntaxin, one of the things our therapy development researchers need to figure out is how to overcome this one-to-one balance so that the STXBP1 can be increased in a way that is, therapeutically relevant, meaning that it positively impacts the symptoms that our kids have. So this is now an active area of research for our research community to understand this relationship dynamic and the implications for STXBP1 therapy development. So at the Synapse Symposium, I was on a panel on collaborations for synaptopathy therapeutics. And we were talking about collaborations across academic, industry, and patient advocacy. Two of the folks on the panel, Claudia Pearson from Neurospector, who was the moderator, and Jan Louis from BioMarin, both referenced a Venn diagram, which emphasized our overlap and shared goals, even though we're coming from different perspectives. So I'll start with the differences and acknowledge, so that we acknowledge they're there. Biopharma need to make money to grow their companies and continue their therapy development. Academics need to publish papers to further their careers. And patients are driven by personal urgency, their health, and their quality of life. And these are very different motivators. That said, I was incredibly heartened to hear the academic and industry panelists highlight their desire to really positively impact patient lives and their vision to deliver or to support and enable the development of transformative therapies. And that really is an area where we have significant overlap. So we talked about specific examples of being able to achieve shared goals, and our STXBP1 STAR study is a strong example of this. So we've talked about it as our natural history study, but I think that it can also be called a pre-competitive consortium. So we have 5 biopharma companies who are now providing some important funding for the study. We also have 6 clinical sites with strong academic clinical teams bringing their expertise. And we have the END Center that is providing funding, as well as the lead clinical site, Children's Hospital of Philadelphia. And of course, we have the STXBP1 Foundation and our patient community. So together, we are developing a foundational set of data on STXBP1 patients, data that did not exist before. And it's critical for us to be able to do this so we can drive forward therapy development and clinical trials. And we are doing this in an active collaboration. So on a related note, I'm excited that the STXBP1 STAR natural history study is now mirrored in Europe. So ESCO's first patient in the ESCO natural history study was seen in Belgium on November 4. So little Rosie and her clinic visit was captured on the ESCO blog, which is linked in this post. So this is a milestone for STXBP1 with the ESCO natural history study, history study starting its recruitment, and more countries are launching to see additional patients as well. Okay, a couple more quick updates. STXBP1 census. So the Q4 census has just opened, and this is the last census for 2025 for this year. We had 1,431 patients in Q3. We are very close to 1,500. It will be meaningful for us to get to this number of 1,500. So if you have not signed up on the contact list with the STXBP1 Foundation or reached out to this association in your country, please do it. Our STXBP1 Global Connect site with country contact information is listed in the links. And as I've said before, our growing patient numbers are important to attracting and maintaining the interest of biotech and pharmaceutical companies to develop therapies for STXBP1. A couple more reminders. ICD-10 code. STXBP1 received our ICD-10 code in October. I talked about this in my last podcast, but this is just a reminder to tell your providers about the code so it can be entered into your loved one's medical record. The code is QA0.0141. You do not need to memorize that. There are printable flyers on our website. Okay, we are headed to the American Epilepsy Society annual meeting at the end of this week to represent STXBP1 at this important conference. And so we will have a report out at the next Science Plus Love Equals Cure podcast. All right, we'll leave it here. See you next month.